besties, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Tori if you're new. I didn't feel like doing a whole big spiel at the beginning of this vlog. It's going to be very chill. I feel like lately I have been very strategic and intense about my reading because I'm really trying to finish the Romantasy summer reading challenge. But I just want this weekend to be a little bit more relaxed. So that's what this vlog is going to be. We are going to be focusing on reading urban/paranormal. And I'll tell you about the book that you would have seen some clips from that I'm currently on chapter 3. We got a new couch this weekend. So to celebrate, Ross and I are going to have a movie marathon on Saturday. I think we're going to be watching Lord of the Rings. And then I'm really planning on spending a lot of time on this couch, just reading, relaxing, and chilling. I need kind of a girl rot weekend after the last week that I had. The last week was reading a book a day, and that challenge, as fun as it was and as good as a lot of those books were, it just kind of drained me. So I just want something chill. So I hope that you're excited. Let's talk about Magic Bites by Ilona Andrews. I am 15% of the way into this book. This book came very highly recommended from y'all after I finished Angel's Blood and I started that series with Nalini Singh. Ilona Andrews is another, I guess, like classic urban paranormal romance author. It's actually a husband and wife duo that write as Ilona Andrews. I guess I'll refer to them as they since it's two people. A little summary for this book. I really don't know a lot about it so far. We have definitely gotten a lot of information in that first 15%. So our main character is Kate from the Kate Daniels series. The world that they're in seems very bleak and grungy, kind of like a Gotham. It seems as though the paranormal creatures of this world are wreaking havoc, and it also seems that magic is quite unstable. She talks about how magic can be an energy source, but then also people have magic themselves. We meet her as she's watching the news, and she finds out that someone of importance within one of these like task forces that manages the paranormal passed away. That person is her guardian. It seems like she didn't have a close relationship with her parents, and so like her guardian Greg took over, and Greg has been murdered. So she immediately, like 0% emotional response, just goes into action mode, and she's like, I'm going to solve who murdered my guardian. Like, we're definitely not romanticizing the paranormal creatures. She talks about in the first chapter when she's watching the news in her apartment, she senses a presence. She senses something isn't right in her apartment, and she sees a vampire crawling on the ceiling from her hallway going into her kitchen. And I was like, scary. I am enjoying it, but it's definitely giving murder mystery, very grungy. Just to bring up, because I know I mentioned there's a couple different like factions that are trying to keep these paranormal creatures in line. There's the Paranormal Activity Division, the Military Supernatural Defense Units, and the Order of Knights of Merciful Aid. Her guardian was in the Knights division, that last one. The fact that they have 3 task forces to keep these paranormal creatures in line, dangerous. I'm just along for the ride right now. I will say I did try to start this book on audio yesterday and I hated it. I hated the audiobook very, very much so. So I decided to reread it from the beginning with the ebook. So those are the thoughts so far. I am planning on reading a little bit more tonight. We'll see. Good morning, besties. Happy Friday. I have been on a journey. I mentioned this in one of my recent vlogs. I've been on a journey to revamp my coffee making skills, basically like learning new recipes, because I was getting really tired of my one coffee recipe that I would make every single morning. So I figured let's go on this journey together, because reading, coffee, tea, they all go hand in hand. They're all besties. So this morning I'm gonna do a recipe that I found on TikTok. I will link the TikTok down below. It's basically, she uses a brown sugar oat milk creamer. I don't have that, so I'm just going to do actual light brown sugar with oat milk, and then I'm also going to put cinnamon and honey and froth my milk, And then I'm going to do Gran Lungo Costa Rica pod for my coffee. It's like a 5 ounce double espresso. Basically, it's just like a little bit more watered than the double espresso pods. Okay, just added ice to her. We'll give her a stir. This is my favorite sound, literally ever. Okay. Oh my god, it's so good. I would say like 7 out of 10. I like it because it's actually the right color. I usually by accident make my coffees super, super light, so it's actually pretty dark, which is nice. You taste a lot of the cinnamon. You can really taste the honey as well. And I feel like you can't really taste the brown sugar. It was just to make it like sweet, because I definitely don't like my coffees to be too bitter. It's really good. I recommend this one. Good morning, besties. I'm trying out a lip stain. It's like the Wonder Skin one, which is why I looked crazy with my blue lips a second ago, and I'm still trying to figure it out a little bit. I do like it, but I find that it doesn't really last like all day for me. I tried sleeping with it overnight, and I feel like that's when it obviously lasted the best. And it might just be the color that I picked. I picked a color that was like very close to my lip color. So we'll see. I'm still playing around with it. But I read a little bit of Archangel's Consort last night. We read the first 75 pages. So I'm 25% of the way in. I'm so happy to be back with Raphael and Elena. They are back in New York City in this one, which is really fun. The second book kind of took a turn and they were in like this other place, and so it wasn't really giving urban fantasy, and I loved that about the first one. First book I gave 5 stars. Second book in the series I gave 3 stars, and now we'll see where this one lands. It's been off to a really strong start so far. For a second I was a little bit worried because last week I did my 7 books in 7 days challenge, and when I started reading Magic Bites I was like, uh-oh, am I in a slump? Like, what is going on? And then I realized with Archangel's Consort, I'm definitely not in a slump. I'm just really not enjoying Magic Bites, unfortunately. So that is my other update. I did listen to a little bit more of Magic Bites. I switched back to the audiobook so that I could listen to it while I was playing Animal Crossing yesterday. So I'm 35% of the way through Magic Bites. I feel like that's not a lot from my last update. I am going to try to get to the 50% mark at least. I am going to DNF it, but I want to give it like a solid chance. So I might do until 60% and we'll see how it goes. So that's my goal for today. I just find that the writing style is what's doing it for me, because the writing style is so like almost like clinical in how it's talking about this police investigation, and when they're like studying the bodies and her relationships with her characters, her relationships with her side characters, it's not pulling me in any way, unfortunately. We did just get like a potential love interest introduced, and so I am interested in where that's gonna go, but I think that's really the only thing that's having me hanging on by a thread at this point with that book. So I will give an update once I've hit, we'll call it 60%, and we'll make a decision at that point. So that's the plan for today. Yesterday, I apologize that I didn't really check in at all. Yesterday was Friday, and I decided, not decided, it kind of just happened. I streamed for 7.5 hours yesterday because I didn't want to stop playing Tears of the Kingdom. I might try to get to 50% in Archangel's Consort today as well. I'm gonna talk to my dad because he's calling me right now. And then Ross and I are going to be watching Lord of the Rings later. Hi, Dad. Besties, we're going on a little bit of an adventure because I need to go get coffee. I am in the mood for a bevy, and I also just need to leave the house today because my brain feels so foggy. Okay, before I turn my air conditioning on, because you won't be able to hear a single word, we
finished Magic Bites last night. I got to 65% and I just said, I'm gonna mark this for the Romantasy-a-thon, but I am gonna DNF it at this point. The one thing I thought was really interesting about that book was how extensive the shifters were in that world. I think that's the coolest shifter world that I've experienced. But like I've said a couple different times at this point, I just couldn't deal with the writing style anymore. I don't think like a police investigative writing style is necessarily for me. I need something a little bit more character driven. I just felt like the characters for the reader, in my experience, felt very cold and like unemotional because it was so police investigatory style, if that's a word, which I don't think it is. However, we are now at the halfway point in Archangel's Consort. I am going to keep updates for this book really vague because obviously it's the third book in a series, but we're still with Elena and Raphael in this book. I've heard that the fourth book we switched to a different couple, which I'm so freaking excited for. I can't wait to see who we're following and what's going on with them. But like I mentioned, in this book, we're back in New York City. There's a lot of family drama happening in this one, which is tea. It is so freaking juicy. I love where Raphael and Elena are in their relationship. There's a lot of like brushing a wing and like they call each other by like my archangel, like the whole time she's like my archangel, and he's like my consort, and I'm like, oh, and he calls her guild hunter, which I think is just, I love that they refer to each other as like their titles or like what they, I don't know what it is. I just love them so much. I love this writing. I love these characters. It's so freaking juicy. The family drama is family drama-ing, which I know I mentioned, but like, it's so good. Also, Elena's dad is freaking garbage trash. He is an entire dumpster. He is a dumpster that I want to set on fire. We hate him so much. I'm only listening to this one on audio and I feel like it's just absolutely flying. Like we read another 75 pages yesterday and it felt like I was listening to the audiobook for 2 minutes. So I'm thinking we're going to try to finish that one today, and I'm actually going to try to squeeze another book into this vlog for the weekend. Today is Sunday, by the way. Yesterday, I didn't do any updates, maybe one update. There's people walking by. It was a very chill, sleepy-deepy day, and we watched the first 2 Lord of the Rings movies on our new couch. We made a charcuterie board, we made wings. It was absolutely so much fun, but not too much reading got done yesterday. I listened to Archangel's Consort like right at the very end of the day. Today we're gonna do more reading. We're going to start House of Bane and Blood, which I've heard some like mixed things on whether it's truly an urban fantasy or if it really reads more like a romantasy, but I think it has kind of an urban setting. It's sort of a similar vibe to Six of Crows with, is it called Ketterdam? I forget, I read it so long ago, but a similar aesthetic vibe setting to Six of Crows. So we're going to do that today and I will tell you some updated thoughts and feelings.
we have some thoughts and updates to talk about for Archangel's Consort because I finished her yesterday. I gave her 4 stars. Something I'm finding increasingly interesting about this series that I was not expecting is that even though it's an urban, paranormal, like fantasy romance, these books are almost like palette cleansers because each book, now that I've read 3 of them, seems to be following a formula, and I don't know if eventually it deviates from this. Like I mentioned, the 4th book does follow a different couple, so I'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But because they follow a formula, and normally that may be a little bit boring because then you kind of know what to expect from every book, this series, it still hits for me. I had a lot of fun with this 3rd book because we're at such a different place in Raphael and Elena's relationship, especially from the 2nd book, but especially from the 3rd book. Like, we've just come so far and we're only 3 books into the 16 book series. It's not like a Throne of Glass, or it's not like an ACOTAR where you have to remember like everything that's going on in this crazy plot line, and there's a lot of little details that are very important to pay attention to. In this series, it's a little bit more cut and dry, where I think you could go like 3 to 6 months without picking up the next book in the series, pick it up, and then still have a great time with it and kind of know exactly what's going on, if that makes sense. My best comparison would be like a contemporary romance series. Those are books that are super easy to like understand. You just fall right into the writing. They're so easily consumable. That's what this series is, at least for my brain, right? Like, all of this is subjective to my perspective, but I think that's really fun because starting a 16 book series, at first I was like, oh my gosh, everyone recommends Angel's Blood to me. I want to start it, but this is scary. Like, this is probably the longest series I've ever started. Now that I know there's kind of a formula that we're following, and by formula, I mean there's a body, there's some kind of like murder mystery that we have to solve. Elena is a fantastic investigator. She's giving Buffy. It's also giving like supernatural. And then also in the background, there's kind of moving pieces with these archangels. Like, they have a lot of drama, and then Elena also has her own family drama. So it's just really fun. It's easier to follow along than what I thought it was going to be. Also, in this 3rd book, we got sky sex. That's all I'm gonna say. I was having the freaking time of my life. Me and Bailey were like losing it over this book. I thought it was so much fun. There's also a ton of training scenes in this book as well. Elena's like back to her badass self after going through some things in the 2nd book. So like, she's back to that like competent badass. The next time I go to Half Price Books, I might look for the next book in the series, or like maybe just collect these quite casually. But I did like the audio. I love Ilium. I love him so much. I love him even more when I listened to the audiobooks, especially for book 2, because his accent, his British accent is so good. And even though the audiobooks are narrated by a woman, like, she just does such a good job with his accent. I actually have to look up who narrates these audiobooks because I highly recommend them. I think she does a really fantastic job. Justine Eyre is the narrator for the Guild Hunter series. Ilium is just so hot. I love that they call him Bluebell because he's an angel that has blue wings, and I just love that he accepts that name, and it like doesn't take away from his badassery at all. I feel like he gives Cassian vibes because Cassian can be badass, super serious, like get shit done, take no shit, but then also he has this really silly, goofy side to him, and I feel like that's what Ilium brings to the series, and I just love him so much. I think I love him. Like, if I had to choose between Raphael and Ilium, I would go with Bluebell. Also, he just like goes through all of the shit all the time. Like, our baby boy, he gets hurty. So he needs someone to take care of him, and I will gladly accept that role. And then today the focus is House of Bane and Blood, because I meant to read at least the first 100 pages of it yesterday. Didn't read a single page. Actually, I read the dedication and I really loved the dedication, which I think I showed you guys, but that was it. So this is going to be our focus for today. at the 40% mark in House of Bane and Blood, and I am having such a good time that I'm truly kicking myself for not picking this book up sooner. Like, what was I doing? This has been what I want to read for I think at least a couple months now, and it sounded so good from the description. I've had so many people read it, tell me that I would love it, and here we are, and I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I am in my men with metal arms era. It started when I watched Full Metal Alchemist like years and years and years ago, and then rewatched it. I'm currently playing Tears of the Kingdom, where Link has a metal arm, and now we get a love interest that is not only like this gang lord, but he has a metal arm. There's also bending in this as well, so he has like bending that he does. Oh my gosh, it's just so freaking good. I'm obsessed with it. He's giving Link energy. He's Link coded, but in a very different form. So I forget if I gave a synopsis for this book, but this book is about our two main characters, Nico, who I've just thoroughly talked about. I'm enjoying him and his character so freaking much. He is the leader of this like gang family. Our female main character, her name is Camila. She's from a very prominent family in the society. They were like one of the founders of this. They live on an isle. It's giving Six of Crows. Like truly, if you think of Ketterdam, I think that's what it's called, Ketterdam. If you think of Six of Crows, that island that's shrouded in like mist fog, it's like difficult to get off the island. That's basically where they're at. It is an urban setting, but I'm having difficulty fully committing to the fact that this is an urban fantasy. It's really not. Like if you think Six of Crows is an urban fantasy, then you would count this, but it's not contemporary enough. So even though there are guns, there's also magic, there's also science. It's not the same as a Guild Hunter series where it's like in New York City. It's not contemporary enough. It's not in our like current day and age. This one feels like slightly more historic. It kind of gives a little bit like of like steampunk vibes, and I wouldn't describe a steampunk as an urban, if that makes sense. So whatever, we're keeping it in this vlog, but it's truly not like an urban fantasy in the same way that the other books in this vlog I read are. So I apologize about that, but I'm having the time of my freaking life. This hits so many tropes. I'm using it for my Who Did This To You trope for Romantasy-a-thon, but it has marriage of convenience, it has hate to love. The setup for these two is that Camila's family is in trouble. They used all of their fortune on something that we're learning about. Her brothers have negotiated this deal to marry her off to this rich family that's going to give them $100,000 rubles, dollars, whatever they call them, in exchange for a part of their train company, and they're like throwing in Camila as like a bonus. I'm not too sure where like the marriage comes into either of these deals, but whatever. In the middle of her getting married off to this other family, Nico's family, Nico and his like squad roll up, and they're like, we heard that you're having a little negotiation deal here. I'm gonna give you a better offer, and I'm going to offer you double the amount of money, and I want to marry Camila. And so they end up switching. They're both just very sassy and snarky to each other. Incredibly so. I may in fact have a couple quotes to read you. I feel like I've been highlighting almost every page of this book, especially now that we're getting more into the middle, because the banter and the dialogue is just... There's also a scene where they have to take a truth serum, and they're like questioning each other, and if they lie, the truth serum makes them like sick. It makes them like throw up. And so the first question he asks her is, so do you think I'm attractive? And she was like, I think that you're absolutely repulsive, and then immediately goes to the sink to throw up. And I was like, I love it here. If you have any ideas trying to sneak out, one of my men will tackle you before you can even reach the sidewalk. That sounds quite stimulating, actually, I said. Is that blonde one with the neck tattoo still out front? Camila, Nico seethed. Oh my god, it's so freaking good. I'm gonna try my best to finish it today. I only have about 4 hours left in the book, but I don't know if I have 4 hours of reading in me today. I'm gonna try to at least get to like 60, if not like 75%, to give you some close to final thoughts, and then I will be posting my review on Goodreads as well, so you can always check it out there, and that's linked in the description box below. For the vlog. So I made it to 60% in House of Bane and Blood. I'm still having the absolute best time. I had to talk myself off the ledge of just purchasing the first and second books off of Amazon. I am going to do it, but I'm making myself wait because it's going to be a present for myself when I finish all of my romantasy-a-thon reading challenges because I'm so close, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm losing a lot of momentum. But I think having a very chill reading weekend certainly helped. I did carry this vlog into Monday. Even though I'm feeling romantasy fatigue, I'm starting to get into books that I saved for last because they're so different from a lot of the romantasy that I read in June and also through the beginning of this month of July. With Spindles and Thorns, actually, I realized I need to read more steampunk themed books because the only other steampunk-ish book I've ever read was Six of Crows. House of Bane and Blood is like breathing new life into this romantasy-a-thon challenge for me. Having the best time. I'm loving this relationship. I love that it's very back and forth with their feelings. They had a very interesting meet cute, and then it went from a meet cute to complete enemies. There's obviously a marriage of convenience in here as well, which throws a wrench in their dynamic. And so for the majority of this book, they've barely touched each other. Like they like kind of like each other, but they also don't because they're upset at the circumstances. But then as they continue to get to know each other, it just gets better and better and better. And I'm loving how this author just truly wrote everything. I'm enjoying the setting. I'm enjoying, there's multiple mysteries that are going on in the background. I feel like if I had to make a prediction, I think that this book is going to end with a betrayal of some sort. One of them is going to betray the other, or they're like not going to betray each other, but it's going to like seem like one of them did. And then there's gonna be kind of that like betrayal miscommunication type thing. I just have a feeling betrayal is in the cards for the ending of this book. And I'm not even finished with this one, and I can't wait to get to the next one. Like, I'm also on the edge of my seat waiting for this spice because it is pitched as a new adult, so I think that there is some spice in it, and at the 60% mark, we haven't gotten there yet. We've shared one kiss, and it was breathtaking. It was everything that I wanted it to be. It just continues to build and build and build the tension. I would literally sit here and go through the thousands of highlights that I've put into this book. I feel like when I actually order the physical copies, I'm going to annotate the heck and bob out of them. Like the first book, I'm going to go back through all of my Kindle highlights and translate into the physical copy. And then the second book is absolutely going to be just an annotation book for me. If you made it this far in the vlog and you'd like to let me know that you were here, please leave a snake emoji because Camilla in House of Bane and Blood has a snake emoji, except hers like moves around her body because it's like magical, and I'm obsessed with it. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you in the comments, and I will see you in my next one. Toodles!